Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive.
Glad to be here.
Today, we're going to be looking at the future of software development.
Sounds exciting.
And a little bit, maybe scary.
How so?
Well, imagine like AI writing code.
Yeah, I've heard about that.
So well that like human programmers are out of a job in like 2 years.
Wow, that's a bold prediction.
Right. That's what like tech giants, Eric Schmidt, Jeff Bezos.
Big names.
They're kind of predicting this, and we're talking trillions of dollars.
Globally.
Globally, yeah. Being poured into AI.
It's a lot of money.
Pretty mind-blowing.
Yeah.
Right. So for this deep dive, listeners sent in this really insightful LinkedIn article.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it's called EP23, The Deadly Price of Cheat Code, Boeing's Tragedy and the Looming AI Crisis.
Catchy title.
Yeah, it was written by Michael Bressoni.
I think I've heard of him.
Yeah, he's like a veteran tech lead.
Okay.
And he paints a pretty vivid picture.
I'm interested. So, like, what exactly are we talking about here? AI taking over coding completely?
Well, that's the question, right?
Yeah.
He talks about, like AI systems that can like understand complex instructions, test their own code, even respond to like prompts.
Like chatbots, but for coding.
Yeah, like you type in plain English, like, make me an app that does this.
Whoa.
There's even this term, text to task, like you just tell the AI what you want.
That's wild.
Well, I got to write this down. Text to task, okay.
Yeah.
So we've got AI contents windows, AI agents, text to task.
You're losing me a little bit with the jargon.
Yeah, sorry. What is like an AI context window?
Good question. Think of it like the AI's short-term memory.
Okay.
It's like the amount of information the AI can kind of hold in its mind, at any given time to understand and process your requests.
So bigger context window, more complex stuff it can handle.
Exactly.
Okay, that makes sense. Like giving a big workspace to juggle all that code. But I'm thinking all this AI brain power, that's got to take a lot of electricity.
You're on the right track. Forbes had an article about this. They estimate that by 2026, AI data centers and crypto, like all that stuff combined, could use like a massive 800 terawatt hours of electricity.
800
terawatt hours.
That's like more than some countries.
More than some countries use, yeah.
Wow. Okay, so a revolution in software, but maybe like at a cost?
Potentially, yeah.
But Bressoni's article, he goes even deeper.
Okay, tell me more.
Could all this AI-generated code, could it be, well, like, bad?
That's a good question. He makes the point that AI might miss crucial parts of software development.
Like what?
Like the things beyond just writing the code.
Right.
He compares it to, like, baking a cake. You can have all the ingredients.
Right.
But if you don't understand the recipe...
You're going to have a mess.
Exactly.
Okay, so the AI might get the what of coding, but not the why or the how.
Right. It's missing those human insights.
So what are, like, these fundamental principles that maybe AI misses?
Well, he brings up this concept from a book called Code That Fits in Your Head by Mark Seaman.
Okay.
And the idea is that code, it should be clear, concise, easy for a human to understand.
Makes sense. I've definitely seen some code that's, like, impossible to decipher.
Right, exactly. And Seaman talks about limiting cognitive load, basically making code digestible for our human brains.
Okay, so AI, with its like super-powered processing, might create code that's way too complex.
Essentially, yeah.
For us humans to even understand.
Right.
Got it.
Yeah.
So what else, what other principles are we talking about?
Well, there's the whole idea of keeping code clean.
Clean code.
Yeah, avoiding technical debt.
Technical debt. Isn't some debt like inevitable though?
That's a good point. It's more about managing it effectively.
Right.
Think about it like this. Imagine building a house and you're constantly taking shortcuts. Maybe you skip some insulation to save time or use cheaper materials. Sure, you might finish faster.
Right.
But down the line, you'll have problems. Leaks, drafts, expensive repairs.
That's technical debt.
Technical debt in action, yeah. Those shortcuts come back to haunt you.
So in software, it means code that's hard to read, modify, fix, ready.
Exactly. And that can be a huge problem, especially if it's running like critical systems.
Right, like a self-driving car or something.
Exactly. Now, on top of clean code, there's testing.
Oh, yeah. Testing. That's got to be important.
Absolutely. Even the best AI needs thorough testing to catch those hidden bugs before they cause real-world problems.
Makes sense. You wouldn't launch a rocket without testing every system.
Exactly. It's all about quality control.
Right. So are we saying that relying only on AI to write code?
Well, it's not that simple. It's about using AI wisely in a way that complements human expertise, not replaces it.
So it's like expecting a robot chef.
A robot chef.
To run a Michelin star restaurant without any human guidance. You might get a meal, but it might not be great.
That's a good analogy. It highlights that just shifting the work to AI might not actually solve the core problems. We might just end up with code that's energy hungry, difficult to maintain, riddled with bugs.
And that's scary.
Especially considering this code will power everything, from healthcare systems to our cars.
Right. So is there a real-world example of, what can go wrong?
Sadly, yes. And it brings us to a very sobering example, the Boeing 737 AX disaster.
Okay, I think I see where we're going with this. Buckle up, everyone, because this next part is a little heavy.
Welcome back to our deep dive, into AI and software.
Yeah, in part 1, we were talking about all this buzz around AI's potential, right? Like changing how we code completely.
Yeah, tons of potential, but some worries too.
Especially when we looked at the Boeing 737 MAX.
Right, it's a sobering example.
Really shows that cutting corners can be,
devastating, yeah.
Absolutely devastating. So maybe we could shift gears a bit, think about the human side of all this.
Okay, yeah.
Why are these fundamental principles, understand the problem, clean code, testing, why are they so hard?
Even for, experienced developers, right?
Yeah, even for the pros. It's not just typing, right?
No, it's way more than that.
It's problem solving. You got to get the problem, break it down.
Yeah, come up with solutions.
Clever solutions. And that's where it gets...
tricky.
Yeah, tricky. Human brains, we have limits.
You can only handle so much at once.
Right, and you can't predict every issue that might come up.
And then explaining it all to others, that's another challenge.
Oh, yeah, communication, that's huge.
Absolutely.
So even with the best, intentions.
Things can get messy.
Especially on big projects. Tight deadlines, lots of people involved.
Oh, yeah, that adds a whole other layer.
Definitely. And that's where, I guess, this technical debt comes in.
It's those shortcuts,
Yeah.
Quick fixes along the way.
I'm not sure I entirely agree, though. I mean, I get that some debt is unavoidable.
Sure.
But shouldn't good practices help minimize that?
In an ideal world, yes.
Right. So, how can we use AI to find that sweet spot between speed and, making sure the code is maintainable?
That's the million-dollar question. It's not about eliminating debt entirely.
Right. Okay.
It's managing it, effectively. Think of a house loan.
Okay.
You might take out a loan, but you do it knowing you can handle the payments. You're making smart choices for the long term.
So how do we apply that to AI? If humans struggle with this, can AI even do better?
It's a tough one. On the one hand, AI could handle those really boring, repetitive coding tasks.
The grunt work.
Freeing up human developers to focus on, the big picture.
That sounds amazing.
Right. Less grunt work, more creative problem solving.
Yeah, sign me up.
Yeah.
But I guess there's got to be a catch.
There always is. Remember those AI context windows we talked about?
Yeah, the AI's working memory.
Right. If that memory isn't trained to, prioritize clean, modular, testable code.
It'll just repeat our bad habits.
Exactly. And maybe even on a larger scale.
Okay, so it's not enough to have AI that can just code. It needs to understand good software engineering principles.
100%. It needs training on great code, algorithms that prioritize quality, and we need human oversight. It's like having a mentor for that AI.
Makes sense. Back to the Boeing example, it wasn't just the technology.
No, it was a whole bunch of factors. Corporate pressure, rushed deadlines, not enough testing.
Right. A recipe for disaster.
Unfortunately, yeah.
So where does all this leave us? Are we heading towards, a software utopia where AI does it all? Or is it going to be a dystopia where buggy software is everywhere?
It's probably somewhere in the middle, like most things. AI has this incredible potential.
Yeah. But
we got to use it wisely. It's about humans and AI working together, each bringing their strengths to the table.
Like that, a collaborative approach. AI boosting our capabilities, not replacing us entirely.
Exactly. But we also have to think about the downsides, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Transparency in AI decision-making, preventing bias in those algorithms. These are big big questions.
Absolutely. It sounds like software engineers, their skills are going to have to evolve.
Sure.
Maybe instead of just writing code, they'll be training AI, guiding it, making sure the AI's code is good.
That's a great point. The software engineer might become more like an architect,
Okay.
overseeing things, shaping the AI's coding philosophy.
Interesting. So AI could actually push us to be better software engineers.
It's definitely possible.
Like, if we want AI to write good code, we first need to really know what good code is.
Right.
That's a good point. And maybe this will force companies to rethink things too.
How so?
Well, if they're using AI for the heavy lifting, the coding part,
Yeah,
they can't afford to, like, skip training, oversight, testing.
you're absolutely right.
It's not just about speeding, cutting costs anymore.
It's got to be a more sustainable approach.
All right, so as we move to the final part of this deep dive,
Yeah.
I'm thinking about strategies. Like, how do we harness AI's power in a way that helps both developers and, well, society as a whole?
Let's get into that. This is where we can brainstorm, imagine the best future for AI and software.
All right, welcome back to the final part of our deep dive, looking at AI and the future of software development.
We've covered quite a bit so far.
Yeah, we've talked about AI's potential to actually write code.
Right. It's pretty amazing.
But also the risks involved if we, don't focus on quality and safety.
Like a Boeing example.
Yeah, exactly, the 737MX. It's a stark reminder.
Yeah, cutting corners can be a real disaster.
Absolutely. But I'm thinking, as we wrap up, there's one thing we haven't really touched on.
What's that?
The business side of all this. Like, how do companies actually navigate all of this?
It's a great point. We've been talking tech, pitfalls, but at the end of the day...
Companies need to see results, right?
Exactly. Return on their investment. How do they make sure they're not just jumping on the AI bandwagon?
Right, just for the hype.
Yeah, without a real plan. So it's about finding that balance,
Between
embracing this cool new tech, but also managing the risks that come with it.
Okay. Yeah, I see that.
Yeah.
So, what kind of questions should companies be asking themselves?
Well, for starters, do they have the right people?
Like in-house, you mean?
Yeah, people who can actually train and supervise these AI systems.
Okay.
And are they ready to invest in good testing,
Security measures, all that stuff.
Exactly. Can't skimp on that. And then there are ethical questions.
Oh, yeah, that's a whole other thing.
Big one. If companies are going to trust AI to build important software,
software that could affect people's lives.
They better be sure those AI systems are aligned with human values.
That's for sure.
And don't create unintended risks.
You hit the nail on the head. This isn't just about efficiency, right? Making more money.
No, it's bigger than that.
It's about responsibility. Companies got to think long and hard about the potential consequences.
Absolutely. Can't just blindly trust the machines.
Okay, so, what can they actually do to manage those risks? It's easy to talk about ethics, but how do you bake it into
the actual process?
Yeah.
Well, I think transparency is huge.
Okay, transparency.
Companies need to be open about how their AI systems work, what data they're using to train them, how they make decisions.
So kind of explain the AI's reasoning.
Right. Imagine if we couldn't understand how a self-driving car decided to brake, We
never trust it.
Exactly. We wouldn't get in. Same with AI-powered software development.
So it's about building trust.
Right. With consumers, but also with the developers who are working with the AI.
Makes sense. If I'm a programmer, I want to know the AI is working with me, not against me.
Exactly. And that transparency, it needs to go throughout the whole company. Developers, managers, executives, everyone needs to be on the same page.
Right. It can't just be like a checkbox on some form.
Exactly. It's got to be a core value.
So we've got transparency, responsibility. What else? What are some practical steps companies can take?
Education's a big one.
Oh, yeah. Training. Right.
It's not enough to just, hire a bunch of data scientists and think problem solved.
Right.
Companies need to invest in training their entire team, from the new programmers all the way up to senior management. Everyone needs to understand AI.
Both the potential and the risks.
Absolutely.
So it's about upskilling existing employees and maybe even creating new roles focused on AI ethics, making sure it's being used responsibly.
That's a great point. We need people who can bridge that gap.
Between the tech and the human side.
Exactly. Someone who can speak code and ethics.
This is starting to feel like a really big shift.
It is.
How do we, as a society, prepare for all of this?
Yeah.
When AI is going to be everywhere?
That's a big question. I don't think there's one easy answer. But I think we got to start by talking about it, acknowledging how complex it is, and demanding more from the companies that are building this stuff.
Yeah, we got to be proactive.
Exactly, not waiting for something bad to happen.
It's about finding that balance, right?
Always.
Between embracing AI's potential and being aware of the risks, asking the tough questions.
Yes.
Demanding transparency, never forgetting the human element in all of this.
Well said. I think, as we wrap up this deep dive, I hope our listeners are walking away with a sense of, both the excitement.
Yeah, there's a lot to be excited about.
But also the caution that comes with this.
Definitely. I think it's been a fascinating conversation, and you've given our listeners a lot to think about.
I hope so.
This is just the start.
Right, the beginning of the conversation.
Keep exploring, keep asking those questions, and keep demanding a future where technology is working for us, not against us.
That's what it's all about. Until next time.
That's a wrap, everyone. Thanks for joining us for another deep dive.
Thanks for listening, and please remember to subscribe to the Forge of Unicorns to stay up to date with our latest episodes.